Okay, so we're about to dive into an idea that is, well, it's both ancient and pretty controversial. What if our most fundamental human drive wasn't just for pleasure, but for spiritual power? This is the core concept behind sexual alchemy, and we're going to break it all down. Now, our main source for this explainer is the Manual of Sexual Alchemy by Samael Aun Weor. And this text, it doesn't see sexual energy as just some biological impulse. Instead, it sees it as the raw material for something much, much bigger, our own spiritual evolution. And this leads us to the central question the whole book poses, and it's a big one. If this energy is powerful enough to literally create life itself, is its only purpose just a few moments of pleasure? Well, the author argues that's just the tip of the iceberg. So here's how we're going to unpack all this. First, we'll get a clear definition of what sexual alchemy actually is. Then, we'll explore this idea of a universal creative energy. We'll get into the specifics, the methods of transformation, see how it all applies to partnerships, and, this is really important, we'll look at the serious warnings that come along with a practice like this.
So let's start right there with the basics. What exactly is sexual alchemy? And why does it ask us to look so far beyond the purely physical?
Well, the source defines it as a kind of spiritual science. The idea isn't to suppress this energy, not at all. It's to harness it and redirect it, to literally transform the raw power of desire into fuel for creativity, for consciousness, and ultimately for our own inner development. You can think of it like traditional alchemy, the ancient goal of turning lead into gold. In sexual alchemy, the lead is our raw sexual energy, and the gold is the refined spiritual light or consciousness this practice aims to create. It's a powerful metaphor for turning something we might see as basic into something truly precious.
So, if we're working with this lead, we really need to understand what it is. What is this energy actually? Where does it come from? The argument here is that this energy isn't just personal or biological. No, it's seen as a small-scale version of the universe's own creative power. The same force that creates stars is, within us, expressed as sexual energy. It's talked about as the very essence of life itself. And this energy is seen as having a dual nature. It can be spent on what the text calls superficial, carnal satisfaction. Or, if it's consciously managed, it can become a kind of bridge, a way to connect our physical world to more subtle and spiritual dimensions of our existence. Okay, so that's the theory, but how is this transformation actually done? Let's get into the practical, nitty-gritty methods outlined in the manual.
The key term you'll hear over and over is transmutation. The goal is never to stop the energy, but to redirect it, to consciously convert that raw force into a refined, creative power you can use for inner work.
The method itself involves a three-step process. First, it starts with meditation to calm the mind and get focused. Then, you use conscious, controlled breathing to prepare the body and mind. And finally, you employ mental control, using visualization to actually guide that energy upwards through the body, transforming it as it moves. But this isn't just a solitary practice. The source argues that the ultimate expression of this work actually happens within a dedicated partnership. This is what's referred to as the great work. It's described as the conscious union of masculine and feminine energies within a committed, loving relationship. The whole purpose isn't personal gain for one person, but a shared journey of spiritual evolution for both. And this is a huge shift in perspective. Sexuality gets completely reframed. It moves away from being about individual satisfaction and becomes a shared, sacred practice. The goal is mutual growth, fueled by what's called a divine, conscious love. But, and this is a big but, with great power comes great responsibility. The manual is crystal clear. This is not a path to be taken lightly. And it comes with some very serious warnings. When this is misunderstood or practiced without the right foundation, the results can be incredibly damaging. The text warns of practitioners developing these huge, inflated egos, or using these esoteric ideas to manipulate or emotionally abuse a partner. It can end up fostering contempt instead of the sacred growth it's supposed to. The text makes the antidote to these dangers very clear, though. It stresses again and again that a foundation of genuine love, strong ethics, and a true partnership is absolutely essential. Without them, this powerful practice can become really destructive. So, to wrap up, this quote really captures the ultimate potential here. It suggests that when this energy is approached with consciousness and with love,
Our most basic human drive can become a gateway to experiencing the divine that's within us.
And so we end with this question, which really sits at the heart of sexual alchemy. It challenges all of us to reconsider the nature of spirituality and desire, leaving us to wonder. Could the journey to our highest potential actually begin with our most deeply human energy?